And
It's
the
not
second
talking.
surf is, yeah, no, I was just saying the second surf is the the lines of text with the colored background on Facebook,
Hmm.
and those are sentences which, if you read them, they'll trigger a process through which knowledge can emerge, right? So our broader objective is designing formats of conversation which
Hmm.
are open to the emergence of knowledge.
Right.
So these are both experiments in the same, for serving the same purpose.
Okay, but how do they come together? Have you kind of found a format for it, or it's happening every day, but does it come together at some point, or it's or your Facebook page is the only way mechanism?
No, so basically conversation is the only way, right? So you can talk to us or you can read us, but there is no representation of this project
Hmm.
that does not offer presence.
It does not.
So
Mhm.
there is no subsidiary product that can be a stand-in.
No, but it's also closed in a way because most of your statements and most of your one-liners are like talking to oneself.
I like talking to oneself.
Yeah, are mostly like talking to oneself. I mean, talking to yourself.
Yeah, and that's not bad. Talking to oneself is not a bad idea,
No,
in
no,
the
I didn't
sense
say.
that that conversation, that self conversation is the conversation we want to trigger.
Hmm. Hmm.
So because that's a conversation in which knowledge can possibly emerge. So knowledge is not going to emerge when I speak to you.
So what's your no? I mean, a lot of my work is about conversation. I mean, but I treat what we produce together as a form of knowledge. So it's not. I mean,
No,
this is.
reproducing the conversations together in like a book or something like that. I'm not saying that will not happen, but that does not need to happen right now
What?
because it hasn't emerged as an internal need.
Any form of exchange.
No, at this point, I don't feel the sense of responsibility towards the audience.
Of course, you shouldn't. Yeah. Right.
So at this point, I don't want to serve.
Hmm.
At this point, I would rather attempt to find a tactic that works.
Hmm. Okay.
And after that, I will be interested in Surficial to scale up.
Okay.
At this
Sounds
point,
like
we're
you're
just trying to figure what works.
Mm-hmm.
Satya, you're saying something.
Oh, I just said that at this point it sounds like you're exploring what the possibilities could be, I guess. It's pretty early, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's just like a very young project. It's just like a few months. It took 6 months in the cooking, but a few months of practice.
Right.
So it's not enough time to take these kind of decisions. It's just like we're just trying to make it work first.
I mean, I've been seeing your statements coming since last few months, but in the last couple of months, it's been becoming more and more aggressive and more concrete in terms of presenting a perspective. They, they,
Yeah.
they,
So I mean, I have
they're
been working at
performing something.
crafting the voice.
Yeah, yeah, it has. Yeah, so the voice has come. The voice has. I mean, and it has a kind of a very concrete way of looking and processing things.
Yeah, so it worked, started as a personal experiment, and then it became this whole entity, which is Surfacial, and which is not me. So the Surfacial is definitely not me in the sense that it's a rule-based game. So what was, it's a persona. So what works for superficial works for superficial. What doesn't work doesn't work. I'm not in the picture.
Okay, so what do we do now? Is now that a couple of more people have joined us?
Sam was here a few moments back. I think we'll start and we'll just let people come in as they do. It's time.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. So yesterday we ended with the thought that to experience infinity, we have to surrender our perspective.
Right.
And the thing is that that's not such an easy thing to do.
Right. And we talked about a few different ways of possibly trying to surrender perspective, like dreaming and things like that.
Yeah. But essentially, the thing is, I think we should just be very slow with this question, because this question is essentially going to stay with us for the next 15 days.
Right.
I mean, why perspective studies? Because perspective is the thing that keeps us away from the experience of infinity.
Right.
And so we need to know it. We need to know what this thing is before we try and offer a solution to the world.
Right.
And that's what we are going to do. So in the sense, we can just be very guarded in our response.
What do you think, Prayas, is infinity is? I mean, how do you envisage it, or how do you visualize it, or not? I mean, or think about the experience of infinity, what it could be like.
No, sorry, I didn't get you. The audio wasn't very clear. Can you please repeat?
I'm asking how do you envisage infinity? Why is this desire to experience infinity, and what do you think? What are your pre notions of infinity? I mean, you haven't experienced it yet, right?
Yesterday we were essentially, we were all talking about how a perspective is a limited view of experience. So the only escape of perspective is experiencing infinity. So infinity is the only thing that is outside a perspective. You can never know the landscape as it is. We can only know it through our perspective of it, through our. So that led us to think about this thing called infinity, if it exists, and if it's what we're after. Then let's know this a little bit. What is this about?
Yeah. So what is it about? I mean, what are these?
Yeah. So why don't you share your perspective on this? So we're all in this conversation right now, where we can each of us can flip the question around, anytime. So there is no particular role that we are playing, except that I'm an anchor. But as an anchor, I'm not responsible for perform any function in the conversation.
Unless you're at times now.
Yeah. So Sam, what would you say? What is the experience of infinity that we're talking about for each of us?
Oh, you want me to say that?
Yeah,
so
why not?
Infinity is the point where we lose track of time as a concept.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay.
So it is a break from the measured time that we live.
Time, exactly. Yeah.
Why only time? Why only time?
Why are we trying?
Why
only time? Why not anything else? Because
Like
I
what?
mean, anything
Space?
that is no, yeah, it can be because anything that is
Time
not
is the
measurable.
time is a necessary condition. It's not just a sufficient condition. So if not presence, if not vision, if nothing, it's fine. But if not time is absolute.
I'm quite intrigued by the way Sam defines it as a point.
So wait, I didn't mean it in a geometric sense, where point is what a circle with radius 0. I didn't mean it that way, but a point is a it's something in the context of space. That's why I was asked Malika as well. What does she mean by the other dimensions that she's talking about?
Yeah,
So
it
it's
could
not
be
just space.
space.
Yeah, it could be space. So what's the other dimension? So let's time the space. Then what's the other one then?
It could also be like even in terms of experience when you can't measure like what we were talking about yesterday.
Right.
When you can't measure something, especially if you're talking of perception and what we are experiencing, there are and we were talking about complexity also yesterday, and the inability to break things down to very definite entities or definite uh, explanations sometimes. Uh, that ambiguity itself is something that is not measured. It's not quantified. Something without a rational can also be considered to be non-measurable.
But when we are looking at time and calling it a necessary condition, we are saying that if at least time is measured, then you need to break out of it. We can break our point of contention down into a single sentence, and that's like we can just say this.
So if we have an objective of breaking down time first, of getting rid of time, if that's our objective, then maybe we move a centimeter towards experiencing infinity.
Yeah, in the sense, if we can only do one thing at a time, because we are only experiencing time itself at one moment at a time.
Right.
So it's that unitary nature of experience that we need to break down, because it's that one at a time is what has to be in the.
Yeah, and
that one is
it
perspective.
kind of reminds me of how, big data, right? Nowadays, everybody wants to. It's like everyone wants to measure everything and use that as the means of coming up with an answer, but actually during the measurement process, you've lost a lot of in-between stuff.
Right. It's like I say that statistics itself is a science of which has very clear levels of tolerating noise.
Exactly. Right.
And every percentile rounding off.
Yeah.
It's not noise. Yes, Sam, you're saying something.
I said it's linear as well.
It's linear, the curve.
Yeah. Linear, the curve.
Yeah.
That's interesting. No, I meant statistics itself is linear.
The more
that
linear
linearity.
Curve,
Right. I mean, you can say it, right? Like, okay, if
Yeah, so
the diameter of the curve is so big, then it looks like a straight line at some, between 2 points. But no, what I'm trying to say is, I think I want to go back to the point that you mentioned, that we take one dimension at a time, and then to experience
Destruct.
infinity, right? Yeah, correct. To distract that. And so if time is one dimension that we are looking at, and obviously there's space, I'm just trying to understand what's the third dimension, that would give us more perspectives into this particular topic. Because and in quantum physics, there's this whole concept of flat land, that
Right.
a land that's completely made of 2 dimensions. And
ah,
so in that, if you think of a land with 2 dimensions everywhere, then we have the third perspective, because as human beings we have this third, the depth. We see the length, breadth, and the depth as well, right? So if
Yeah.
we see only what we know, how does anyone see anything new? Correct. So
yeah.
if all we see is what we know in 3 dimensional space, and
Right.
someone who has a better understanding, or the fourth perspective, and they would see
Exactly.
things. Okay,
I
so
mean,
that's
what
very
you're
great.
saying
Okay,
is
good.
what you're saying is the exact reason,
Huh.
why novelty is the
Uh-huh.
most fetishized service that anyone can provide in the market. So
Right.
you go to someone in the business of promoting art, and you tell
Mm-hmm.
them that I promise you that I'll help you reach to the newest artist, to the most critical artist, to the most visionary artist, and that guy will say, please do.
Right.
Right.
So it's like everyone is really struggling with the idea of seeing what they don't know.
Exactly. Oh my God, that's very well put. Okay.
I would like to bring in here this idea of superconductors
Uh-huh.
and superconductivity. Which
Okay.
seemingly seems to be finite but can be considered as an example of infinity. Superconductors can produce and transfer energy without any kind of loss.
Can they?
Yes, superconductors can. So
I
there are a
mean,
lot of
I think theoretically, I don't know.
theoretically, yes.
Relatively.
Yeah, but
But
it's
then, but
it's
then
never
this
been
idea of no
observed.
loss, but this idea of no loss happening in the process of transmission or any kind of um,
Yeah,
any
but
kind
the idea of no loss, which is
can
basically
that
the
be
idea of
considered?
no noise,
Hmm?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
is which is basically the idea of no noise. No loss is no noise essentially. So in
No, no,
statistics,
no
that would
loss.
mean no noise of data, absolute data. That's a myth. I mean, what I'm saying is that's exactly the
Yeah, it's
construction
not a it's not a myth.
of it.
It's
Which wants to
theoretical.
trap
No one
us.
can.
I mean, from a human system and human experiential perspective, it is a bit of a myth, right? It's actually a hubris also. A lot of people think that, wow, I have so much data, so I'm making these great predictions, but actually you don't.
Big data. Okay, let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
But
But
then
before that, I wanted to say, Paul, Sam, sorry,
Hmm.
that idea of flatland, it just brought this image of Carl Sagan's Cosmos.
Mhm.
I don't know if any of you have seen it, but maybe
Yeah.
you have.
Yeah.
He makes this demonstration of a piece of paper and he draws the two-dimensional world, and then he has this apple that's hovering above, which is the
Correct.
three-dimensional alien.
Uh-huh.
Kind of funny. I was just reminded of that.
Okay.
can you talk a little bit more about the flatland?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Okay, so flatland is basically a land where everything is 2 dimensional. Okay, so you won't find cuboids or spheres there. You'll just see circles and squares there. Okay, so if we as human beings enter that land, for these people, we would look like if you put your finger between any two objects in that flat land, you would look like a circle, right? Because that's what they'll see. And you can see everything that these people own and possess, okay? Because you have this extra perception, which is the depth, right? And then if you try to explain to them that there is one more dimension, and it's very difficult to explain in the first place, and if you bring someone, it's a fear of unknown, right? So everyone would be afraid in the beginning. And so if you take out one circle and then you bring that person to a three-dimensional space, as in a sphere, and then this person kind of levitates or elevates from his two-dimensional space, and he looks at his own flatland, and then he or she would understand what we are trying to explain, right? But if you extrapolate to us, where we see everything three-dimensional, and someone tries to explain to us the presence of a fourth dimension, I can't grasp it practically, though theoretically, mathematical models are there to prove that these things exist. I still don't know how these things would look like. But that's the extra perception that we should have to experience infinity. I think that's what Prayas is conveying.
But Sam, as you were saying that, I was struck by the fact that our vision is in fact 2D.
What we
our
see,
vision is 2D because
what your vision or your dream?
Our vision in the sense what we see, right? So what we see is 2D because
Optically.
the retina of our eye.
No. Biologically, whatever we see is three-dimensional. Okay, so I'll prove it to you. Okay, so you point your finger up. Okay.
What I'm saying is, I'm just saying that the eye has no empty space. So when I see something physically with my eyes, I'm not forming a miniature physical model of that in my eyes. I'm essentially seeing a projection.
Yes.
And this projection is 2D. It can't be 2D. It can't be 3D because the eye has no space.
It's the brain which is putting together two separate 2D images.
So it's a simulated condition.
Yes.
We are seeing this world because we can only see it this way.
Yeah. Okay, so you're saying you don't have to see the fourth dimension, you just have to put it together.
Makes sense.
I'm saying that we don't have to see the fourth dimension, we have to see the third.
yeah, whatever dimension, yeah, correct.
Because we are living in a 2D experience.
Okay, so tell me about this. Okay, so if you point your finger up and you try to touch that tip of the other finger, hold on. So you take your right hand, point your index finger up, and then you try to bring your left hand from above with your forefinger pointed out, and then you try to touch these two fingers, the tip of these two fingers. If you're having both your eyes open, you'll be able to do it perfectly. But then if you have one of your eyes closed, right, you would never be able to do that because you won't find the depth. Your brain won't be able to capture it. What we are seeing is essentially 3D, or what we are perceiving is 3D always.
It's you said it right. So our perception is 3D. Our experience is not 3D.
No, our experience is 3D, but then our vision is 2D.
Exactly. I mean, basically, if you zoom into experience and you reach vision, then vision is not 3D. Vision is 2D. So, I mean, I was essentially responding to your, to the reference to 4D in reference to what Akansha was saying was as a lossless media of transmission, which is we got off talking to as a mythical entity.
Right.
Which is, the idea of science that to establish authority, you can only sell a mythical, tenet of knowledge, which nobody will ever be able to verify, and so everybody will always be faithful to you. It's like religion.
No,
So, if it had a practical, tangible. Yeah, you're saying something. Please go ahead.
No. You're simplifying religion and you're simplifying myth by calling it mythology or that you're simplifying it. It's not. I mean, myths do not. Um, it's theoretically proved. So it has a certain basis. So in practice and in the way we see a practical world, it's similar to what.
A basis cannot be established theoretically.
Sorry.
A basis cannot be established theoretically. A basis is established by experience.
Experiments.
Experiments,
Yeah.
So, but experiment is an experimentally verified theoretical notion. A theory will only propose something until it's.
But it's not myth. It's not a myth. Myths are different.
A proposal is a myth. I can propose.
Yeah, it could be a myth.
Proposals, myths. These are two different bodies of knowledge.
No, I'm not
anything,
saying that
that's not been proven, anything that's not yet been experimented upon or proven is a fiction, right? A fiction is like a myth.
Hypothesis. Hypothesis is not mythology. Mythology is something else.
No, I'm saying that it is
a
possibly
mythology.
mythology. It's possible. It's possible that it's true, and it's possible that it's not true.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everything that's not proven is a binary. या तो सच है या तो सच नहीं है.
Mythologies are not about truth.
Mythologies are not about
truths. They're not. They're separate from this idea of verifying or from.
Okay. So I get it. So what she's trying to say is the way we start off saying something, right? So a hypothesis is stated with the intention of trying to prove it, whereas a mythology is started with no intention of anything like that. Right?
Yeah, I mean something becomes a mythology when it has a deeper cognizance of in a person's psyche than simple operatives of true story. So like take any myth, and we all know it's not true, but it doesn't matter.
No, it may not be entirely untrue either.
Yeah, it might have some basis. Like, it might come from somewhere.
So at the fundamental level, a myth and a hypothesis could very well be, equivalent.
Equivalent?
At a fundamental level, like at point zero, a myth and a hypothesis could be equivalent. I mean, what happens next if somebody is trying to prove it or if somebody is not trying to prove it?
Yeah. So Akansha, what were you saying? We cut you off in the story. You're saying something, and we just got stuck with this mechanism of looking at it. Can you please continue?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
No. I just want. Yes. So you were saying something, and I interrupted you with this.
You were talking about this capacity of lossless transmission in superconductance. This facility of lossless transmission in superconductivity. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. So for me, this idea of no loss happening would be a great perspective to understand infinity.
Okay, no loss. That's very good. That's a very good analogy because when you're talking of measured time, we are talking of loss. Yeah. Because when you measure time, you lose time. You lose granularity in your resolution.
If we shift the gear from time to energy, then what?
Yeah. So when you don't look at measured time, you might actually be looking at energy, but So Sam, would you think that energy is infinite?
Energy is what?
Yeah,
I mean,
energy
you
is infinite,
think
but
that
what we can harness is finite.
when you harness energy, it's finite.
Yeah, because there is going to be a loss.
Yeah. So, but energy in its pure state, in its unharnessed state,
It's infinite. Yeah.
so we can actually jump from measured time to energy.
Okay.
I mean, we have been searching for words to
Right.
describe infinity.
Right. Hold
So
on.
you are saying that energy is a word, that it could be a stand-in.
Yes.
Prayas,
So,
could time be energy?
Raja, what did you say?
I said,
could
could
time
time be energy?
Time can be energy.
wait, how?
How can time be energy? Okay.
Does time move anything?
No, I'm saying that if you, I mean, time is a unit of measurement. If you move from measured time to energy, which is what, let's say,
Time
would be a
moves
bigger frame.
ideology.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you properly.
So you asked uh,
Yeah, I asked, does time move anything?
time
Can we look
moves
at time as energy?
Time moves mountains.
time moves
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah.
But what you first said was time moves entropy, right?
No. He asked, does time move energy?
Anything.
Anything.
But I think this is a misheard production. I mean, time moves entropy is actually it might be true. So
And time
condition
also
of
adds
entropy is
entropy.
broken.
That's also true, right?
Hmm?
Time also adds to entropy.
Right.
Adding
So
to the
it's not
movement.
true.
So time could be looked as energy, right?
I somehow beg to differ on this point.
Yeah, Bandesh, I mean, you wouldn't agree with moving
Yes,
from, yeah,
because I think the time and energy are different elements. According to me, energy, as I see it, as one element which can be uh, trans transferred or converted into a mass or an element, whereas time is completely a separate element. I think the mass or energy and time are not interconvertible.
Space and
right.
time can be interconvertible.
Uh, I mean,
Space and time are intertwined and
yeah,
connected through
Right.
gravity.
not convertible. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
Yeah.
think convertible.
they're affected by gravity.
Well, by one theory, sure.
Yeah.
But as far as time is concerned, I mean, I don't think time per se on its own is an energy.
So you think time cannot move things?
Uh,
He says time cannot be
time,
converted.
yeah,
Yeah,
and, and,
but
and and time
you are saying
cannot
that
move
time
things.
cannot move things.
No, I also agree on that point. Time cannot move things, but if things are to move, then time is must. Things cannot move in a zero time. The
Yeah,
zero
so
time,
yeah, animation cannot happen with still images.
Hmm.
true, exactly.
But it's not necessary. It cannot cause motion.
But if a motion is to be caused, then time is a necessary requirement.
Right.
It need not be the reason behind the motion, but it's necessary.
Yes, that's how I understand.
So we cannot move from time to energy.
Yes.
Right. So let's move somewhere else. So where do you think we can move from time to as a word? We can play with different words and discard them by talking about them. And these cannot be words which stand for infinity, possibly. So which word would you like to propose next?
Movement.
Stillness.
Distance.
Resistance?
Resistance.
Malvika, you said movement.
I said movement first, yeah. Somebody
Movement,
said
stillness.
distance. I say resistance.
Distance. Who said distance?
I said distance.
So I
Okay.
say resistance.
Distance,
I say
resistance, movement, stillness.
Illusion.
Illusion.
Concreteness.
Concreteness. So which word do we start with? We have a lot of words here.
Stillness. Because
Okay, so unless somebody really wants us to move with their word first, we can just start with stillness,
Yes.
and
we
then
don't
we'll
want
go
to move. That's the point of stillness.
Yeah, exactly. We'll move to whoever is really the most eager.
You're moving all the time.
No, okay. So I just wanna understand what happens when a person walks. Okay, so he or she moves through time and space by expending energy, right?
Yes.
Whereas in infinity, what I would ideally want to experience is stillness, like nothing is happening. Okay, like time, space, like no one is moving through, like nothing is moving through time and space, so no energy is being wasted, so you can harness the infinite energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so stillness can only operate in the absence of time.
I mean, in the world that we live in, I cannot think of anything which is still actually. I mean, with respect to, I mean, your book on the table may be still with respect to the table, and table may be still with respect to the land, but the earth itself is moving, and so is the solar system, and so is the whole universe. I mean, in a way, if you think of complete stillness, then probably that was a stage before Big Bang, or that might be the stage after Big Crunch. But in a state that we live in today, I don't think anything is still.
But stillness could also be a perspective. I mean,
Correct.
that's one physicality of stillness, but there may be another way of looking at it.
No, it's stillness with respect to the observer. So for me, everything is still. It doesn't mean literally everything is still, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when we think about making an optimal move so as to conserve and preserve all the energy, and in presence of stillness, as someone was suggesting, that we will be able to move to infinity. And I'm just trying to imagine how was that.
I'm saying stillness is the point of infinity. We are not moving towards infinity through stillness.
I mean, what you're saying, Bandesh, is that stillness is impossible.
Yes.
Right, and I mean, I would agree, because I would say that the universe exists because of vibration,
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but
and vibration
bound.
is a change of state.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I didn't get that.
Yeah, vibration. I mean, someone or something
Akash?
put the things in motions, and here we are. And it has been a continuous motion, and I don't see it ending anytime soon.
Yes, so vibration happens because of an unstable state of energy, right? So the energy is not stable. So it causes some transitions to happen. And those transitions are, like vibration.
I mean, what do you mean by stable energy or unstable energy?
I mean, there's instability at the core of our condition. Like the only reason which makes us feel stable may be continuity, and that's a continuity is imagined.
I don't know. I cannot imagine this situation being
No, I'm saying,
unstable.
in a sense, if you go back to our question for the day, which was, why do we see what we see?
Right.
So if you imagine a slideshow with a low frame rate,
Right.
and you're seeing one image every few minutes,
Okay.
then you would at some point question, why do I see what I see? So in a sense, you will question, why is this transition happening?
Right.
And that is for us to not accept what we see very easily is necessary, because vision finds it very easy to entrap you. So you have to challenge it. You cannot accept it very easily. But the frame rate of our experience is so fast that we don't get a chance.
Yeah, we don't pause to challenge ourselves, what we see and why we see that.
We just don't get a chance to question what we see.
Yeah.
Prayas, so when we were talking about stillness, someone mentioned vibrations, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I got disconnected at that point. So I was about to say, if every particle's vibration in the entire universe, is similar, then for each other we look like we are completely still.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I mean by stillness. Right, so you're in complete unison with the movement of the universe or the vibrations of the universe. And that, according to me, is infinity. Like complete stillness, which means that you are complete.
This brings us to a very interesting point. Like, as you mentioned, stillness can be relative. Like, right. It's still according to the observer. So can infinity also be relative? Like, as you said, that if every particle in the universe is still with respect to each other,
right,
then it will be infinity. So is it not?
So that's my perception of infinity. So your perception could be different, or Malavika's perception could be different, because she said motion and I said the exact opposite, right?
No, but Sam, how would you ensure that all the cycles of vibration across all the particles in the universe are in sync?
How would I make sure? But why should I make sure? So if I... Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, for them to be same or similar, they have to be in sync.
Right. No, but there is a...
So
okay, so nature... Okay, go ahead.
No, please. Yeah.
No, I said by nature, nature has a certain type of vibration, right? And once you become one with nature, then that's stillness. But then you don't have to worry about bringing other people into the same type of vibration. Or is that the point? Like, are you trying? Oh, okay. So are we trying to make everyone experience infinity, or as a person that I should experience infinity?
Yeah. So I mean, no. So we were actually talking about stillness because you proposed it as a word.
Right.
Or infinity. So yesterday we were talking about how difficult it is to describe infinity.
Correct.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, it's my perception of infinity. My perception is stillness, and this is the way I would go about it. So,
but does it hold together?
Holds together what? Whatever we have been discussing so far.
Good description of infinity, stillness.
It looks like a good description to me. I'm convinced because I proposed it. So now you guys have to question me so
how
that I can defend myself. No, it is difficult, definitely. But I think, like, for me, personally, I think that's a good explanation, as in. So think about.
So we can move to the next word.
Okay. I'll just give you an analogy, right? So there is, in quantum physics, a particular particle or electron can alter its behavior based on who's observing, right? So you must have heard of this infamous double slit experiment where electron goes through these two slits and then it behaves like a particle or it behaves like a wave based on who is observing, right? If there is an observer, it behaves like a particle. If there's no observer, then it behaves like a wave, right? So I think my perception about infinity is like that. So when I observe infinity, I look at it certain way, and then if I close my eyes and then you look at it, you could look at it completely differently. So yeah, let's move to the next word.
So I wanted to say, because I'm quite eager to push myself forward with the word movement, which I'm appropriating from Malavika.
Okay.
And I'll shut up after that. To achieve stillness, you have to have movement, is the thing that struck me.
Okay.
To see a different perspective, I have to move out of where I am to see from a new place. And then maybe slowly, I keep seeing new things. It's like I lived in India, but then I moved somewhere else. So I have all these new insights about India or something, or wherever my home was. And similarly, eventually maybe I'll reach a place where I have deconstructed and seen my original place of existence or whatever by moving away from it. And that's what I have to say.
But okay, so there is, I think, Tao quoted saying the best way to travel is to travel inward. So you don't have to move away from the point, whereas you have to move towards the point.
Right. I mean, moving away also can lead you to moving inward in a way, right? I mean, you are in a new environment which gives you new inputs.
To expand on that a little further, motion could be thought of also as a rhythm. When you're in a rhythm, when you're moving in a rhythm, you can actually achieve stillness.
Yeah, but stillness is also a rhythm.
Yeah, like a rhythmic equilibrium.
Yes.
Where it's actually moving really quick, but it's stationary.
Right. So it's a kind of so zero is only a set of probabilities. It's not an absolute absence of everything.
Right.
It's a low enough range of values so that it's nothing.
Or like white noise is the combination of all these frequencies.
Right.
Okay.
So Yeah, there is a tolerable threshold of noise, and that's silence.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But Sam, what did you say to responding to what Akansha said about movement in a rhythm? Okay, you said that stillness is also a rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So it fits your model.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to the next word now.
Okay.
We are going to Satya. Would you like to go with concreteness, or would you like to ask?
Actually, I was attracted to the word movement because of personal experience, but concreteness, now that I think about it, concrete doesn't feel like infinity. I mean, it's more like a distillation or a crystallization of infinity, but it doesn't feel like concrete could be a good word for infinity now that I think about it.
Oh, he's not here. Okay, so you don't think concreteness is a concrete word to describe infinity?
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah, because I feel infinity is bigger, or I don't know, beyond all of that.
Okay.
So the word concrete itself sounds quite limited to me.
Yeah, me too. It has a lot
Yes.
of connotations to it.
Yeah. On the other hand, if infinity really is a thing, then it has to be concrete, I guess.
So
Or
with
Right.
stillness, let's say with we just looked at stillness. So in stillness, with stillness, what would be concrete?
nothing would be concrete.
I think the stillness will be concrete.
When we
There is
talk about
nothing there.
stillness, an example comes to my mind of a state uh, that can be considered. Um, the state of Bhishma Pitama on the arrow bed, where he's not really participating, but is in that in between stage of withdrawal, but yet not fully gone, but yet participating. Would that be
Right.
can that be considered as stillness?
So participation as movement.
Part of, I mean, it's an action that actually consists of both, withdrawal as well as participation. It's
So
not
you're
dead
saying
yet.
that the rhythm of movement would be from between participation and withdrawal.
Participation and withdrawal. Yeah.
And withdrawal. Yeah. So what do you think of that? All of us. I mean, I'm throwing this question open to everyone. What do we think of this binary replacing the anonymous binary between the poles between some vibration was happening in a very unmarked kind of way, and instead of those unmarked poles, we put the words participation and withdrawal.
That's actually reminding me of Arjuna too, because he was in a state where he was supposed to participate, but he had actually withdrawn. It's like he's on. It's like participation and withdrawal. It's like standing on a threshold.
Yeah.
That reminds me of my daily life when I'm participating.
Same here, man.
But I would wonder why you would want to give names to these poles. Like, isn't the unmarked always a bigger frame than the marked?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
So what is nothing in particular can be anything. But that which is something cannot be anything. It is already something.
Something for us, something for the viewer. Otherwise, it could be anything.
But then stillness is nothing, and the nothing could be something for somebody.
Yeah.
But could nothing be something for somebody?
Isn't that a perspective?
Yeah, somebody could get tuned into the zero state.
Right.
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 So you can just turn the machine off. You can just stop experiencing.
The withdrawal.
That's withdrawal. So yeah, I mean, maybe the words just work for this kind of, withdrawal and participation, but I would wonder why.
I feel they are all representing concepts which replicate in nature. Like everything is self-referential in a way. Like nothing, withdrawal, stillness, these are all concepts that relate to different physicalities, but the abstraction of it is pretty similar to me, at least. Maybe that's why they work.
So
They also
are
work
you saying that it's okay to use them?
I'm sorry?
You're saying that it's okay to use these words and go from unmarked poles to marked poles?
Maybe it is only a crutch for understanding.
Okay, so so for moving forward, we'll take Akansha's words, participation and withdrawal, and let's see where it takes us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
But-
joining late. Can you explain again what Akansha said?
So as far as I understand, unless Akansha, unless you want to represent what he said,
No, you go ahead.
so what I got of what she said was that we were talking of the movement of a rhythm, and Sam was talking about this rhythm of stillness. So the rhythm, the movement of rhythm being still, and and then Akansha offered these words that if the rhythm of movement is between the poles of participation and withdrawal, then what? So that's where we are.
Okay.
So participation. So I was going on to say that to me, participation and withdrawal are very human names. Human words. They bring in sentiment.
Yeah.
But there are ways of engagement.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it just brings up sentiment in me, which
Understood.
I find unnecessary.
Wait, what becomes when the distance between these poles is 0?
Yeah, so when you take away sentiment, concepts become in that sense very flat, and that surfacial nature of knowledge is what you're looking at. We're looking at its most immediate form. So when you look at something which is associated with emotion,
Okay.
it takes you time to understand that.
Right.
Emotion is not immediate.
Yes, then the point is to experience infinity, one has to undergo a rhythmic movement,
Between these two poles.
withdrawal.
Okay.
Someone said that what if the distance between these two poles becomes 0? I suddenly went into a thought chain of it. I feel like if the distance between these two poles becomes 0, that's the point where we become still. That's
Yes.
the point where we experience infinity
Yes.
and harness all the energy.
Yes.
So it's like
Okay.
you are participating as well as you are withdrawn at the same time.
Exactly.
Right. So, but when you release
lot
the
happens.
distance,
No, so we have to talk about
goes to
distance.
0, distance.
Yes, because someone mentioned distance, right? When we were
Yes.
yes.
Who mentioned distance?
I did.
Right. So Akshay, just to fill you in, we were talking of words that can describe the concept of infinity,
Okay.
and of such words, distance was one word suggested by Raja in that sense. So could distance be a word to talk about infinity?
That's how we always imagine infinity, that there is some infinite distance. But I think as what is being talked, we are always between withdrawal and engagement in a way.
But when we have moved the distance between the two poles to 0,
Mhm.
the sentiments have become concepts.
I don't think so. No.
I
No,
think
but
so.
in the sense,
It's
yeah,
like an abstraction, made an abstraction of a sentiment. Like you moved through humanity, you worked through your humanity, your failings, your limitations, and then you reached a place where these are mere concepts and abstractions.
Yeah, but what I mean to say is, I think we are point zero and we are infinite at the same time, because we are withdrawing and we are engaging at the same time. So it's zero and infinite is at the same moment.
So
okay,
you're
okay,
saying
that's
we're
what you're saying.
already at infinity.
Sorry?
I kind of heard that as we are already at infinity because we are engaging in whatever it is that we are supposed to be engaging in at the same time right now.
Yeah, but when we imagine infinity, we always see also a point zero, from zero to infinity. But that again there's no
Distance.
distance as such.
You see the point 0 only if you are self-aware. But when you're looking into the distance, you're only looking out. You can't see yourself.
Mm, But you are part of that.
Your perception, your perspective is a part of that, but you are not part of it because you are the source. You are 0.
But that's where we are drawing the line from, no, to infinity.
So you are a part of it, right?
Yeah. We are point A in a way, and whatever point B we are imagining is infinite, maybe, but that can be anywhere within us also, and with outside of us also.
Right. So it's part of us. I
Yeah.
mean, it's where it starts from.
Yeah. And it's where it ends also, no? It's a cycle in a way.
But there is no movement. It's a ray. When you are looking out into the bounds of infinity,
Yeah.
it's not a vibration between infinity to 0 and 0 to infinity, because infinity itself is not known, right?
Yeah,
So
But
what I'm
in
trying,
the process, in the
sorry.
process of looking at infinity, you could also be looking inwards at the 0 because when you look at the perspective of infinity, it reminds you to look at inwards towards the infinity inside. So in that sense,
Yeah, I would say in the same way, like say if you imagine Earth in orbit, that means when you see the infinite round, it's an infinite round from point of Earth. If we are looking out, that same point comes back in an orbit and comes from the backside. So it is crossing through us in a way.
you are talking of a loop. You are talking of a loop as a concept that can represent infinity.
Yeah, but
But I'm
infinity
not
is
sure
that
if
no, even if you look at the symbol of infinity, it is a loop.
right.
It's a
right.
loop.
So I
So.
mean, it's as a hall of mirrors.
Mm, No, I don't think so. It's a Hall of Mirrors. No.
No, so the mathematical concept of similarity.
Yeah.
talks about a hall of mirrors. It talks about the universe seeming to be much bigger than it is. So, one side is reflecting another, but what we think is unique is only a reflection.
You're
Sorry,
saying infinity is limited then?
Hmm?
That in that sense, infinity is actually just one thing which is reflecting so many times. So actually, it is limited.
Yeah, so I'm saying that's another proposition.
Yeah.
No, it depends on how many times it's being reflected.
Right.
Yeah, oh, right. So the facets of reflection might be infinite.
Yes.
Okay.
So Bandish talked about distance, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what were you thinking when you said distance?
I mean, when you think of the word infinity, the first thing you see is that the distant point where it goes on and on and on, and I think when we talk about infinity, it's a comparative measure that with respect to this point, it's never ending. I mean, it's it is always relative. It is never on its own a measure. It's a relative measure. So when I thought of a distance, it was natural that in relation to any point, there is an infinite distance around that point. That's what the infinity is. Because if you don't pinpoint a relative point to begin with, then you can't begin.
So what is distance? Like, how do you define distance?
I mean, a distance in time, a distance in space, a distance as we earlier talked about, whether to do or not to do, the dilemma of Krishna or earlier Vishnu Pitama. So it's always a distance between 2 points, or a point and the never ending. But there has to be one point and the other never ending, or the other point where the distance is infinite.
Vandish, we spoke of collapsing the distance between the two poles to 0.
That I am having some difficulty of imagining, and
Okay, I'll tell. I don't know why I keep bouncing back to quantum physics. So there's this concept of entanglement, right? So where you have one electron in one universe, and then the other electron would be in another universe. But then
parallel
if you
universe.
parallel universe or multiverse, right? Anything. So, but then if you alter the
create a
property,
wormhole.
yeah, exactly. So if you alter the properties of one electron in one universe, the other electron in the another universe responds to it in a similar way. So if that's the and it has been proven, right? In quantum physics, it happens. So these two electrons, though they are light years apart, they behave in a similar way. So if that's the case, so what happens to the concept of distance? Either they are connected somehow, or there is no distance. They are always touching each other.
I read the articles about time travel and wormhole and connecting parallel universe, but somehow I'm yet to completely.
Yeah. Bandesh, I have a parallel view about distance here.
Yes, please.
What I feel is distance or time or all these things which are measured or which are entities which can be only measured. They are all illusions. They are all made for our own sake and constructed illusions. Exactly. So even if we talk about distance, it's always the difference of the point from 0. Like the distance between you and me would be the difference of our distances from a point 0. Whereas there is no initial 0 point anywhere. So these are all just made for our own sake, and these are all constructed illusions.
Yeah, that's what I meant by the Earth's orbit, no? When you can put that point zero anywhere in the orbit. It
Yeah,
can be anywhere and it can end anywhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Like that way, what we have the perception, like similarly, once I was thinking, when we think about our life, from life when we are born to death, that is not a loop, it's a spiral. So in a spiral, you come close to many points which you have crossed in your earlier life,
yeah,
and that something is always creates an illusion, that deja vu kind of feeling, that oh, we have again come back to the same situation. But
yeah,
actually, we are not in the same situation. That is a spiral. But otherwise, when we look at everyday life, or the way we are looking at, say, the filter of perspective, we are in a loop from zero to infinite, but it's all through us.
yeah.
So, have we come back to the point? I think Akansha has left the room, but I'm just trying to pull the threads back here.
Yeah.
Have we come to the point where we are saying that it's okay to look at infinity as a movement between participation and withdrawal? Are we saying that?
Yeah.
By saying that
What do we
distance
mean by
or time are constructed illusions, I meant to say that uh, we are already in infinity and we are experiencing infinity, but we are not aware of it. Or these constructed illusions are keeping us from being aware of it.
Yeah, I would agree to that.
Yeah,
Correct.
me too.
So,
I did.
right.
Yeah.
So there is a constructed distance between withdrawal and participation, and once we are aware of that, this distance becomes zero. So
Yeah,
eventually, it's the same point, and then that's
Yeah.
when we experience stillness, which is infinity.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because like same as Earth's orbit, if we look only from one side, say from American side, and we only see a round going around, but we don't see that the point comes back into India somewhere.
yeah,
Imagine the globe. So yeah, if
Mm.
we are not aware of it, we see it as a distance.
absolutely.
But what were you saying, Satya? You were saying something to uh, add on to what Raja was saying, I think.
Aye, what was I saying? No, I don't remember. I'm sorry.
She acknowledged.
I think I said I agree. Yeah,
We are experiencing infinity, but then
but yeah, we are
We're not
unable to
aware of it.
vocalize it, and when we try to vocalize it, it becomes not infinity in a way because of our limitations.
Yeah,
Right. So,
And
but
right.
I'm sorry. The other thing which I think Akshay had said about life, from birth to death, that to me is not limited. To me, that itself is an infinity. To be alive is infinity.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
what I said. That if we don't imagine it from when we are born to death, at every moment we are in infinity. But if we see in, like we were discussing about the distance, and then the two separate can be viewed like this, that life to death is a distance, and what
Right.
we are talking is a infinite at this moment.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
so where does that take us? So Satya, what you just said, that the movement in life need not be a movement between points of birth and death, but itself in free floating in infinity. Where does that take us? Does that take it to a place where we can accept that what we are going to do is work with these two words, or that does not seem necessary, and we can move on from these words now?
I somehow like the word rhythm, which Akanksha had mentioned, and I like the word stillness. I feel like there is something, because words is all we have, I guess, one of the things we have. But participation and withdrawal are seeming a little limited to me in this discussion. I feel like stillness and rhythm seem to have more potential, at least to me.
Yeah, I would agree because I think when she's saying withdrawal and participation, basically, if now we think that they are at point zero, they form a rhythm because they are interchanging at a certain speed, maybe. And how you perceive a withdrawal can be infinite. How you perceive participation can be infinite, but it is a rhythm. I will agree.
Right.
But
So the rhythm.
yeah, but I'm not very sure about the stillness because I didn't hear what she said about stillness. What does she mean by stillness?
Yes, Sam had initiated this whole discussion about stillness, and I think at this point we're very close to the time we should stop. So I'll just say that Akshay, we can see the recording and
Yeah. Okay.
go back to it. But I would just like to pause to go on to tomorrow, and so I would like to pause with taking what was just said in terms of rhythm and stillness
Mm-hmm.
being the two poles that we can talk about, and
Yeah.
we can talk about it more and see where that takes us.
Good.
Okay.
Yep.
Right?
Thank you.
So did I capture it right, Satya? Rhythm
Yes, I
and
think yes, very
yeah.
much. Yeah. Yeah.
So then, yeah, we'll meet again tomorrow at 9 p.m.
Okay.
And at this point, we just stop the broadcast because it's been 1 hour and you might have to get back to other things.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And sorry, I was late. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can. So we'll start again tomorrow and then see where it goes. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye. Good night.
Bye bye.
Bye, guys.
Good night.